In this video, I'm going to show you some of the things I did to stay warm in my tiny bus when the cold and winter finally set in. Now I'm in zone 6, so it does get pretty cold here, and I think this year's been the coldest in quite a few years, at least where I'm at. We really went just from this tiny sprinkle to all this snow in really just a matter of a couple days, and like once it hit, it just hit, and it just kind of kept coming down. This was not the first cold spell we had had this year, so I already knew that I was going to have to do more if I wanted to stay comfy and cozy before all this snow ended up setting in. The first thing that I decided to do differently was to get some straw to pack around the edges and the bottom of the bus. When I first did the math, I estimated that I was going to need about 30 bales, but when we got to this farm, they had already packed these giant bales into sets of 21, so we picked one up and kind of started with that to see how far I'd get. The next morning back at the farm, there was already more snow on the ground, and I knew that there was more snow that was coming. So I set in and started just picking them up and packing them around the bus one at a time. I was so curious to see how far I'd get with 21 versus the 30 that I had originally planned for. As I started packing them around the bus, they actually went a lot further than I thought. There were a few spots around the bus where obviously the straw bales weren't going to really cover, like around the tires and around some of the bottom of the bus where we had cut the panels off before to put some boxes underneath that never got installed. So I was trying to figure out, like, could I get this one bale to cover it, but ultimately it wasn't going to happen. So I just kept going. The farmer that I had bought the straw from told me that there was another guy who picked up straw for his RV, and I had asked him how much that guy had bought, and he said he had bought 90 bales. So I asked him how big his RV was, and he said it was 30 feet, which was about how much mine is too. That means this guy probably ended up going up 3 levels of straw around his RV, which ultimately I think honestly was probably a great idea, because then it would have given him more insulation at least a couple feet up into his RV, and that's where most of the cold air sits for me in the tiny bus, in my RV. It sits on the first bottom 2 feet of the floor. And then from there it gets pretty warm because I have all these other heaters on, which we'll get to in a second here. But it's always those first 2 feet. So had I had another layer, it probably would have made a big difference. I gotta say though, Hunter was really excited about what we did have, and this first layer did give us a really nice seat to sit on all the way around the bus. I have debated a couple times to go back and get some more, even to get the next 9 or 10 bales just to cover up these big holes. But right now we're a couple weeks after this video was shot, and ultimately I think this year we're probably just going to stick it out. If I'm still living in the bus next year and during the winter, no matter kind of where I'm at, I probably will go up at least another layer. But for this year, I think this works. It did get to -8 one of the nights a couple weeks ago, and it was really, really cold. And it was leading into -8 from however many days before that. So by the time the -8 night came, when I woke up in the morning, my cat's water bowl was like halfway frozen because it sits on the ground and it's cold. Once the snow really started to sit in, you can see how the straw bales actually really made a difference. And all those little tiny cracks, minus really the tires, got kind of packed in with all the snow that had fallen. And that snow lasted for quite a few weeks. Okay, on to the next heat source. This is my Cubic Mini, and as tiny as it is, it does take the bite out of the cold once it gets going. And after enough time running, it really starts to add a lot of heat to the bus, especially from the top half, like from where it sits and up to the top of the bus, which is kind of an unfortunate thing because where I have it mounted, the air doesn't really go down, like the hot air doesn't really reach the floor. But all in all, it really does work, and it makes a huge difference having it here. So this is my mini space heater. It's the newest addition to the Tiny Bus this year. I bought it because I am on grid, so I can afford to have it running and connected because it's on grid. If I were to just be on solar, I don't think that the solar panels that I have would be strong enough to actually run this any significant amount of time. But because I'm on grid, it worked really well, and I'm really happy with having it here. It makes the space very warm, especially after a few hours running. And sometimes I even have to get up at night and kind of turn the temperature down. And then when it gets too cold, it will automatically turn on, which is really nice because it gets really, really cold down here on the bottom of the bus, especially at night. The other thing that I really appreciate about it is it has an automatic off switch, which is just this little button once it gets pushed over. So if my cat knocks it over when I'm not here, it will automatically shut itself off. It's really nice, and it kind of just makes it so I don't have to worry about it if I have to leave the bus for a couple hours with my cat Hunter inside while it's still really cold outside. This is the mini split that I have in the bus. It was the smallest one that I could find at the time that I was building the bus. And while I can't run it just with my solar, I can run it while I'm on grid. And most of the time I am on grid unless I'm traveling around and I'm doing a lot of dispersed camping. I'm so happy to have it though. All in all, it gives me heat during the winter and I can run AC during the summer, and it's so nice to have both. Along with the little wood burning stove and the little mini space heater, I actually have been staying, I think, as fairly well as I could have. I definitely think that the straw outside made a huge difference. I would get more next year for sure, and probably go up at least 2 levels, if not more. It's fun making this video, and thanks for watching so much. Subscribe and follow along. It's fun to show you guys and share with you guys all the crazy stuff that happens in my life, especially about the bus and just, you know, holistic living and all health and wellness and foraging and good stuff. If there's anything in particular you want to see, let me know. Or if you had any suggestions on how to stay warm, or if you've had to try to stay warm in an RV during the winter where snow falls and it gets really crazy cold, let me know what you've done or what you think I could have done better. I'm interested to see what your opinion is. Hope all is well. Stay warm, stay safe, be kind.